Tonight's guest is someone who I highly respect, is an inspiration to me as a DJ. He originally hails from San Francisco, lives in Los Angeles, and was a huge part of the West Coast house movement, which has a large global influence. He's played at pretty much every respected club around the world. He's known as a working, living legend, and yet despite all this, he's one of the most humble people you'll ever meet. Without further ado, Doc Martin. How's it going, Doc?
Check, yeah, good.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Wow, this is quite strange.
So I guess just to start, we have an audience here. It's a mix of old schoolers, new schoolers, people who have seen the multiple waves of house music, and people who are just getting into it a couple years ago. What was West Coast house? What did it mean to you? What did it mean to the world? What did it sound like?
Well, San Francisco's always been kind of a melting pot for people, cultures, you know, gay, straight, black, white. And so before house music in the 80s, you would kind of have this thing of hearing all kinds of music through the night. It would draw everyone together. And when house music came in, it was kind of, people didn't quite know what to do with it. Because I remember one night I just said, screw this, and just started playing acid house for like 6 hours straight. And people were just staring at me like, you know, what are you doing? But as things grew, it really brought everyone together in the city in a major way, which was kind of phenomenal.
What did it sound like?
When I would go to Chicago, New York, you would usually hear full vocal track into the next track. And here on the West Coast, we tend to turn the records over and play the dubs and extend stuff and really get into people's heads with trippy sounds and such, and using acapellas from reggae records and rock records, and just kind of really making it the melting pot that reflected in the crowd.
So there's a word that I think about this word a lot, even since before I was a DJ, and it's tossed around a lot, and it's very ambiguous to me. It's also a word that I think you're very closely associated with, and the word is underground.
Oh boy.
What does underground mean to you?
Wow. It's a very hard question, because to me, it's always been about the music, so I look at it from that side. I don't look at it from the, some people think being in a warehouse is underground. To me, you can be anywhere. If the music makes you feel something, takes you somewhere, or makes you feel better, leaving than when you did when you came in, that to me, it represents what underground's really about.
So is it possible to have underground in a big mega club that's marketed to the mainstream and on MTV, but it's still saying playing the same music that you're playing? Is that still underground?
No.
No. I mean, to me, it always kind of struck me as an intention.
It's kind of it's a tough one. It's it's a tightrope people walk. Some people are very militant about it. Some people just want to go out and have a good time, and I'm all for all sides of that. And I think usually when you get to those big massive things like that, the crowd kind of reflects, and they don't really kind of get what you're trying to do a lot of the time. Where, like somewhere like here, I could do my own party in LA, where we'll get a ballroom and 800 people that are tuned in, and then we can take it somewhere,
So that actually kind of leads into one of the things that I want to talk about, which is when you're DJing, and oftentimes you'll hear DJs talking about feeling a room or reading the crowd. What specifically does that mean to you when you're on stage, when everyone's tuned in?
I tend to like to get places a bit early to kind of feed off the vibe of people, and I kind of like to suck them in to a groove and take them somewhere with it if I can. And I like, personally for myself, because growing up in San Francisco, I like to present many different styles of music, especially if I have a long set, because that's kind of like how I was brought up through the melting pot, which is known as SF.
Yeah.
What I like to do is, obviously, anyone's ever listened to me playing the last 20 years, I kind of have an affection for bass lines and tribal drums and positive vocals. They're saying something, not someone reading off a sheet in a studio somewhere, I guess you can call it emotional music. I like things that make you feel something,
And you want to feel that when the crowd is feeling it too, right?
Yeah, it's very magical when you can tune into each other,
So the first question around satisfaction is, when you walk away from a DJ gig, what does it take for you to feel satisfied with the night?
Well, I think we're probably hardest on ourselves when we play. I'm never happy with any set that I ever play anywhere, it's always something went wrong, or I did something wrong, or it's not perfect, or it's not this. And I think that you kind of need that to make you strive to be better. A lot of people get complacent and will just go and paint by the numbers. And I probably spend more time than most people. I spend about 4 to 6 hours a day with music, listening, playing in my studio. I'm always surrounded by it, always trying to find ways to manipulate and make things happen in a different way, you know? Because there's many ways. You can play the same track 3 different ways, and it can have 3 different meanings at different times. You know, it's all how you present it.
And then zooming out a level, we've talked about this before, which is how do you derive satisfaction, not night by night, but when you look at your career at a much higher level? Like, are you doing the things you want to do? Are you satisfied with X, Y, and Z? I mean, how do you look at yourself holistically as an artist?
Well, there were times where I've been offered to take the money and run, so to speak, and I've kind of ran away from that in a big way. It's just not really what I'm in it for. So I'm very satisfied. I've seen the world. I've met millions of amazing people everywhere, and I get to play the music I really want to play, so that's it.
What more do you want? Living the life. I kind of want to zoom in on that moment that you just touched on, where you had the option to take the money and run, but you chose the alternate path. I find that very interesting. Was it a single moment in time that was a fork in the road, or was it kind of there was a few things coming your way? I would just love to know more about what that actually means.
Well, at one time, I actually had the same manager as Tiesto.
Whoa.
Dude! Mind blown, yeah. And the manager at the time was basically saying, we want you to change your style. We want you to put you on tour with this guy. He's going to be huge, blah, blah, blah. You'll make all kinds of money. You'll be able to retire, do this, that, and the other. And I heard the guy play once, and I was like, I really don't want this, you know? It's not where I was coming from at all. And I left the agency and basically had to start all over again.
It actually reminds me, I've heard you use this phrase before, and I've seen it in interviews too, which is there are DJs who are honest with their music. As an art form, we're mostly playing other people's music. So what does it mean for a DJ to be honest?
I think a really great DJ, you will feel their personality come through the music. And I think that's really important to give the crowd that, a piece of yourself in that way. By sharing part of your personality, whether it's humorous, serious, or what have you, just to give some of yourself back and not be such a robot.
A lot of the times when I'll hear a DJ play and I meet them for their first time and I talk to them and I get their vibe, it all makes sense, you know. It's or the other way around. After I've hung out with someone and then I hear them play for the first time, it's like, oh, of course you play this style of music. It's just a totally perfect gel, you know.
Yeah.
So you've seen many different ways of dance music and the underground and the way people market themselves and so on. I think now in the last 3 to 4 years, the rise of social media has definitely played a huge impact on the way artists are marketed and possibly even the art form itself. Would you agree or disagree, or what's your opinion on the role of social media in underground dance music?
Well, I mean, you definitely can buy your way in now, which wasn't really feasible before. The sad thing is that promoters go and will look and see how many followers you have, and they do their bookings according to that, which is ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it has no direct relation to how good a
No.
DJ they are, right?
No.
Especially if you can buy likes or do something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible for, let's say, for any up-and-coming DJs or someone who wants to break through, do you
Yeah.
think it's possible to do the Ricardo route and just kind of only release music and not participate in the social media game?
Oh, I tend to find the people that aren't fully on that side are usually the best DJs because they spend more time with their music.
Ah. So you're saying I'm terrible?
No, I don't know.
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, boy.
Thanks, Doc. I really appreciate
you.
your time, and I'm sure everyone else here does too. Doc Martin, everyone. Thank you.
Can we start the music now?
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable back there, actually.
Me too. Okay.